and unmute you so people can hear us all.
Woohoo.
So hello, the stream.
Woo. Hi.
The stream.
Anybody who may be there. We have at least a few people there already. Hey. Hello, stream. That was quick. Y'all didn't waste time.
You tweeted and I retweeted you and said, we're live. We're doing it live.
Perfect. So we are about to record our episode. We are, what is it, like a full month behind on our fitness?
Yeah.
Holidays make things hard.
Jeff, it's still
right?
March. I don't know
Oh
what
my
you're talking
gosh. we just started the show like last week. No,
Yeah.
we're a bit behind, but I'm gonna blame it on the holidays and general exhaustion, end of semester craziness for both Sam and I. So yeah, here we are. Sort of, we're just gonna do one sort of holiday episode. I think is the plan, and no guests, just the three of us. It might be a short one. We'll see how it goes.
Wait,
Yeah,
a
or no,
short.
yeah.
Never mind.
I'm probably the only short thing about this episode.
Well, we will see. Well, I mean, we theoretically have a decent amount to talk about because we haven't talked in so long. But who knows? I don't know how much I do have to talk about. We'll see.
Well, we're gonna call for suggestions for what fitness related.
Oh, that was a conversation on the Discord. Yeah, somebody had recommended that it always helps them sort of think about their goals, their health, and their fitness more when they're also actively reading a book related to health and fitness. And we haven't done a book discussion since the first few episodes, right? Although maybe if we find the right guest to join us, we can let them pick the book as well. So there's a few ways we could go about that. So
That's an idea.
we'll see how it goes. Sam is furiously typing. Did you purposely get like a loud
I'm
clicky
tweeting
clacky
it.
keyboard?
We're not
No,
really
we're
in the
just
episode yet, are we?
Streaming, what, giving folks a chance, giving folks a
streaming.
chance to pop in who aren't here yet. You're asking
Yeah.
them in the chat. They can hear us.
No, yeah, and so if they type it
I
though, then
suppose,
we'll
yes.
have a record.
Yeah,
of it
you,
that we can
yes,
go back
you are
and see.
smarter than me. I get it. Fine. At
didn't
least
say
I
that.
finished my dissertation.
Sam's always right.
So there.
I also tweeted
Okay,
it. So
perfect.
there. We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
it'd be
what
great
happens.
if there was sort of a particular geeky themed book that we could tie into as well. So I don't know if that's a thing that exists.
Yeah. I did not get a chance to look today, so my intention was to do that, and then I just got overwhelmed.
I came
with
to the
work.
realization this morning that as of tomorrow, we're getting back into my regular campaign, and we're going into a spot that is the story is completely homebrew, and I'm gonna pull, like we've been doing in D&D since first edition. I'm gonna pull, a dungeon here and a location there and a bad guy there from other books and whatever. But that means I don't want to buy like the entire book on Roll20 just to be at this one dungeon or whatever. So I have to start importing maps and setting up the lighting and bringing in the tokens. And I realized this morning, like, there's a lot to do. And I have no idea, because of the nature of where I'm going in this third act of the campaign, like, I have no idea where they're going and what I need to prep for tomorrow. So...
And now you know why when I run D&D brief, I don't use maps for the most part. Like, there's been a few times I've used a map, but that's it, because first of all, it's hard to know where exactly they're going to go and what they're going to do, and it's a completely non-linear story, and it's completely homebrew. And then add to that the fact that because it's homebrew, I can't just buy a module
Right.
on Roll20 and have the maps all right there, and that's a much different experience and takes a lot different prep
Well,
time.
it does. Yeah, no.
And it's not even prep time like I'm prepping for the game. It's just putting stuff into Roll20 or something, and that is not prep
And I've
time
done it
I
before,
enjoy.
and it's not a huge deal, but especially because my semester's over and I've got like a 2-month break before we start up again. And by break, I mean I've got writing to do and grant proposals to write and other things to work on.
Sure,
but
sure.
it's all
Oh,
very loosely, free schedule sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I know, and I kind of have a sense of where things are going, or what I have. Like, there's probably half a dozen locations, and some of those locations might be like full like 3-layer, 5-layer dungeons or whatever, but half a dozen locations that are going to be prevalent in the last act of the campaign. So in theory, I could get them all ready, but I don't know. So I at least need to figure out the like 2 encounters I'm pretty sure are going to happen on tomorrow. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. All the advantages to Theater of the Mind that you are mentioning are, I mean, these are the things that we've known for forever, right? But I have a group of players who particularly likes maps. They're really into map combat. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I don't have anything against maps. It's just that when I'm I'm running Rime of the Frost Maiden, but I bought
module.
the
Yeah.
module on Roll20, so everything's right there, and the only thing I have to add in is stuff that I particularly want to add in myself.
That's what I did with Curse of Strahd.
And yeah, and most of those things already have, like, I can search Google and find an image, right, from a WotC product that is a NPC or something that I want in a different view or whatever, and I can upload that to Roll20 no problem. But but all the sort of town maps and everything is there, so I don't have to do any of that myself. All the creatures are there, like those aren't an issue. But when you're doing homebrew, if you want to have maps for everything, it's very difficult to do that on a consistent basis over the long term. It's just really tough. So, but I mean, I would use them a lot if I felt like here's what I find. If I have to do that, I spend time I should be using to prep the actual game by prepping the maps and things. And so that to me is a different kind of prep, and it feels almost wasted sometimes. But anyway, that's a story.
It is. Yeah.
Topic for
This sounds like we're getting into a second behind the DM screen of the week. So,
yeah.
How you doing, Tracy?
I'm doing.
I like that. Tracy just sort of sits there and she's doing her painting and whatever. Yeah. Then I ask and she looks right at the camera. I'm doing. That was fantastic.
That's that we could snip that as a clip and just be like, hey, check out the latest Tome Show video. And it's just Tracy saying, I'm doing.
All right. And Dar Jr. is commenting on our random side quest back to behind the DM screen. So
that's good.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the conversation.
So shall we go ahead and get going?
Yep. Let's do it.
Sure.
And Dar Jr. is not... I don't understand Twitch at all. He's not listed as being one of the users in the chat, but he's chatting with us.
It's possible he's listening to... It's possible he's watching it from one of the channels that's streaming, like Sly Flourish streams Tome Show. My channel streams Tome Show. It's possible another... see web interface. Yeah. It depends on how they're accessing it. Twitch doesn't always grab everybody's.
I just know it's weird. Doesn't make sense to me. So, but we should go ahead and get started so that I can go to bed on time tonight. So,
yeah.
I don't know why, but I'm exhausted today.
That is an important thing for health. So
I woke up an hour or a half an hour at least early today, because I was having a nightmare that my college or some college made me teach a math course. And I'm like, I'm not qualified. And I so didn't care about it that like I completely forgot about it by the second session. and somebody else reminded me, and it was already 15 minutes late for the class. I hadn't done any prep, and I like, whatever, I'll take my time. And I couldn't find the room, and I went back to my office or something first, and so I showed up 45 minutes late, and I just sort of didn't care. So I'm like,
that's like the updated
right. It's like that's what you get for making me teach math. I'm a social studies education person, so it wasn't even like a math education class where I could have made something up, because there's a degree to which education is education, but like it was just straight up teach math.
If you were 45 minutes late and
they were all there.
They all failed the class.
They were all.
Failed the class.
Even in the dream, when the person's like, class started 15 minutes ago, I'm like, oh well, I'm 15 minutes late. Surely they're all gone by now. But then I showed up 45 minutes late. Hey, every single one of them was there. What is going on? It was.
Now, see, that was the next class that was going to happen in that classroom. They were just there 5 minutes early.
I don't know, man. And all that threw me off so badly. I woke up half an hour early this morning. So.
I got to tell you, every semester I have a class where 15 minutes into the first day, after I've already handed out the syllabus and said hello to people and said what class it is, after about 15 or 20 minutes, there's always somebody who stands up and says, sorry, I just realized I'm in the wrong class, and like leaves. Every time at every semester it happens.
My son was telling me, I was in the room while he was doing his virtual learning today. And I was listening in while everybody was just quiet. They were working on something or whatever, but everybody was just silent. And then every now and then, one kid would like unmute his mic on Zoom. It wasn't Zoom; it was Google Meets. But he would unmute his mic and just yell something random, and then mute again. And I'm like, "What is that kid doing?" He's like, he just likes to get attention and yell out and cause disruptions every now and then. I'm like, well, I mean, sure, in the classroom, but like, it's virtual. Like the teacher can see who that is. Like, what are they doing? But apparently he's been doing it for weeks and getting away with it, so whatever. And still thinks it's funny. I don't know. Kids.
I mean, at some point, what can the teacher do about that, right?
I don't know about Google Meet because I don't use it very often. But I know on Zoom, as the teacher, I can mute the other people.
You can mute them. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, but you can mute them, but they can always unmute themselves.
I don't remember.
Right?
Maybe.
You can't. A teacher cannot forcibly unmute on Zoom anyway. You can't forcibly unmute someone, because it's a privacy issue. So people can unmute themselves.
But can you forcibly mute them?
Can't. You can mute them, but if he's already unmuted himself and started to yell, how quickly can the teacher get to that and mute them again? Right, like it's just going to be disruptive. And if you bring attention to it,
because it was. I mean, nobody paid attention to it. It was just a dumb little thing. But anyway, we said we were going to start like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
This thing was supposed to. This thing was supposed to start like at 8, and it's 8:20. So let me hit.
This is the Tome Show. If they don't realize this is going to happen,
people watching this on the YouTube channel later are going to be like, "What? What are they like? They're just talking about nothing for 20 minutes. What does this have to do with anything?" Yeah, well. Here we are.
Yeah.
We're just chewing the fat until we decided to get started. But I hit record now, so I guess I can start.
Yes, you can.
All right. This episode of the Tome is brought to you by AwesomeDice.com. It's the most awesome place on the internet to get dice. And by listeners like you, thanks for using our affiliate links to shop at Amazon and DM's Guild at thetomeshow.com, or for supporting us as patrons at patreon.com/thetomeshow. Welcome to Fit for D&D, the Tome Show's fitness show. It is, what month is this now? December of 2020? Oh, allegedly. Supposedly. This is our monthly check-in on fitness, inspired by the D&D fitness hashtag. Tracy, Sam, and I sort of check in, talk about how we're doing with our fitness goals, and then dig into some topic, interview, whatever else might come up that's helpful for us. This month, this episode, here we go. You'd think, I just use the same script every time. You'd think I'd have caught the fact that it says week and it's not a weekly show, but whatever. Anyway, this episode we are discussing surviving the holidays, I guess both generally and while also trying to keep up with our fitness goals. So, I believe I mentioned Tracy and Sam. They're both here with me. Tracy and Sam, how you doing? You just silently sit there and stare at me on the stream.
I'm doing well. We're trying.
You're both insisting the other person does first.
I'm doing well. I am barely surviving the holiday season. So.
Yeah, I don't think I had input on what our topic was. I'm not sure I should be considered like.
Oh no, we have. I don't think any of us are claiming any expertise on this. We're all supporting each other, trying to figure out how the heck we're going to get through it. In fact, it is. We talked a little bit on the stream before we started the recording, but it is this issue of the holidays that is at least partially to blame for the fact that we missed at least a month of recordings. I can't remember. Did we record in October? The last episode was the one with James Intercasso, and I don't remember if that was October.
Was that? I'm going to tell you right now. We'll find out. It was September.
Wow. So we're a couple months behind.
Well, so this technically is supposed to be the November episode because it's early December, and so we talk about the month previous.
Right. Well, we apparently have.
But
we can talk all the way back through October now, I guess. October, September, all the stuff we missed, right?
Whatever.
We're going to talk about how our fall has been going. How has your autumn been? Yes.
How has your autumn been?
I like how we both went to the exact same line. We have no guest this time around. It was originally supposed to be recorded a couple weeks ago, but life was such that didn't work out, and it didn't happen in November time because the holidays were crazy and pandemic happens, and Sam and I are dealing with craziness with teaching as best we can these days, and then the semester's ending, and Tracy's dealing with family health issues and all kinds of stuff going on. So needless to say, we're late. If you've been wondering where the heck we've been, that's sort of the gist. So we have no guest this time around because I think there's enough for the three of us to just chat and check in and see how we're doing and then move on. Does that sound fair?
Sure. Right. Sounds fair to me.
So, should we talk about our topic first, or should we talk about our individual sort of goals and progress first? Who has a preference?
I do not have a preference, but I think it's all going to meld together because I think, part of my discussion about my health for the past 2 months will include how the hell are we surviving.
Okay, so maybe we just go through each other one at a time, and then we make sure to also talk about this holiday. How do we get through the holiday sort of issue? And I think there's two things going on with the holidays in terms of survival, because there's both the physical and mental drain of just getting through the holidays piece. There's getting through the mental and physical drain of the holidays during a pandemic piece. And then there's also the how do we continue our fitness journey and our goals and making progress while also dealing with just life in a pandemic during the holidays. Does all of that sound sort of in the vein of what would be helpful?
Sure.
All right. So who wants to start us off?
I think you should start, Jeff, because I feel like you go last every time.
Okay, fine. I will start. My last 3 months have been interesting in terms of my goals. I managed to get myself back up to running 3 days a week, which was my goal. After the beginning of the semester sort of slump and having difficulty getting that in, I definitely got back into the 3 times a week routine, and that was a great success. It started to cool down around here as we got into September, October, and I found that my running speed suddenly magically started getting faster when I wasn't doing it in sweltering heat. And so it was amazing how much of a difference that made. And I also noticed it's probably been going on for several months before all of that, but I know I had complained about how running sometimes I had sort of this hip pain along with it that I sort of had chalked up to I'm overweight and I'm not used to running and my muscles and bones aren't where they should be, and I'm also getting older and what have you, right? And then I slowly noticed it was always consistently worse after running for a day or two. And then I noticed it wasn't just my hip, but it was also sort of towards the front of my gut, if you will, in the hip region.
Okay.
And I was describing it to some folks, and they're like, oh, well, it sounds like you might have an incisional hernia because it's right around where my old appendix scar was from back in the day. And I think it was Brandis, actually, who Tome Show fans would know, had mentioned, oh, yeah, or somebody had mentioned, like, I remember I had a lump and it felt like, a golf ball in there and whatever. And I'm like, well, there's no lump. It's just sort of sore and painful a little bit after I run for a while. No big deal. And then literally within 3 days, I started to feel a lump. And now it's consistently sore, and it gets much worse when I run. And so I've had to just, I don't want it to get worse. I already have a doctor's appointment, but it's not until January, so I don't want it to get significantly worse by running. So I have for the last almost a month probably now, I've completely cut out the running, and I'm still doing the distance. I'm still doing the times. But I'm just walking in hopes to not exacerbate whatever's going on any worse. I already had a well visit planned for the doctor in January. I didn't want to have to pay for an extra visit, when I was already going in, and it's something I can hopefully live with. So that's like I said, I've still been using the Zombies Run, so I'm consistently, my pace is, sadly, my pace when I'm walking is only a couple minutes slower than my pace when I'm running, but it is what it is. Yeah. But so my pace is a little slower, but I'm still putting in the same amount of distance, and I'm still trying to go walking at least 3 times a week when possible. This week it's actually been a little bit extra sore earlier in the week, so I'm probably only going to get into 2 this week. But all in all, I think I'm doing about as well as I can be doing, considering. So I think that's me. And in terms of the holidays, I don't know. There's a degree to which the holidays are going to be a little bit rougher because we're not doing our typical stuff. Because we're not visiting family and we're not going to see, people aren't taking time off and what have you, like they would be normally. At least my wife, Megan, she's not taking time off. And yet at the same time, I'm off way more because we started our semester earlier and we finished our semester earlier. So I've already been off for 2 weeks now. So that's all going to be weird and different. At the same time, there's almost in terms of mental health, there's almost a calmness to that. Like, I don't have to stress about being in my parents' household with 30 other people and the craziness that involves. I don't have to have the extra stress of being crammed into tight quarters with people that I have very strong philosophical, moral, and political positions from in an election year, after the election, at that time. So all of that stress is sort of not there. So
Now, did you travel
We
for
didn't. No.
Thanksgiving?
We had an
Okay.
invitation to go and visit my sister and her family. They just moved to Ohio recently, and we haven't seen their house. They haven't been to us yet. Whatever. And then we
Hmm.
decided in the last few weeks before, maybe even a month or so before, to not travel. And we decided, and even that was low stress. We ordered food instead of making food from a local small business. Figured we can support them and have a nice low stress
Hmm.
holiday for us. It's one of those things where you pick it up the day before, you just stick it in the oven for a few hours or an hour or so.
Right.
Nice easy Thanksgiving that way. So yeah, and then my other issue is even just walking. I live in a neighborhood with no sidewalks. There's no sidewalks anywhere
Mm.
around here, and so I'll be curious to see how I do, not over the holidays, but as we get into the winter and the roads are all icy and snowy. Um, Keeping up with walking, although walking would be easy, will be easier, I imagine, to keep up than running would have been on ice and snow. So yeah, I guess that's sort of where I'm at. Tracy,
Do you want do you want to talk about
I
woodworking?
can. Woodworking has been one of the pandemic hobbies that I started with my youngest son. He was kind of interested in it like a year ago, and so my sister in law and her partner got him a bunch of tools and a little toolbox that he got to build that was all like pre cut out. He's a my sister in law's partner is a woodworker by trade, and so he had pre cut out everything else, made it real nice, and so then they put it together, and then we kind of ignored it for a few months, and then the pandemic hit, and we're like, well, we need stuff to do, so I started doing that with him. As sort of just a regular, it's a chance for him and I to work on something together, but it's also a decent like check in. He and I get to sort of talk to each other
Hmm.
and do that. But we're also, the first thing we made was like a little step up that we put under the window that was measured to be the right height to just go right up to the window, and then we put the dog bed on it so the dog can lay in his bed at the window height and look out or be in the sun or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And that was the first thing we built, and we built a dice tower and tray that came out really well, and now we're building little cubbies to put into the closet to store hats and gloves and all that kind of stuff in. And he wants to build a nightstand, so we bought the lumber for that a couple weeks ago. So that's just every day. We're not very serious about it. We're not very good at it. We don't even have most. I mean, we only have like two power tools. We have a drill and a circular saw. We don't even have a table saw. But we get by, and yeah. So it's something we do, and sometimes it goes well, and sometimes it doesn't. So but it gives him at least an outlet when things aren't going well. It gives him a place and an outlet where he
Hmm.
can be mad and angry and yell at me and whatever, and we're sort of out, just the two of us, and he can sort of get that out and then get him centered back together, and then rejoin the rest of the family and the rest of
Hmm.
society and all that. So
It's also good to sort of have him learn the habit of doing something
mm,
constructive, literally and figuratively in this case, when he's angry, rather than let it bottle up or feel anxiety
well,
because it's building up and he doesn't have an outlet or something like that. Like just knowing that, hey, when I grew up, I would go do woodworking with my dad, and I could get everything out, and there were no hard feelings, and we built this thing. And so I have these
yeah.
memories attached to building these chintzy little, like, we weren't even good at it, and yet here it is. We have this thing that's really
Yeah. I
awesome.
haven't I haven't
That
even
is
thought of it
really
that
awesome.
way. Because and typically when we go out and are doing that, and something happens, the work stops, and we just sort of sit in our lawn chairs at the workbench and talk through it and whatever. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, that is it's an interesting strategy to consider. Like, hey, you're not happy right now. You're angry. Let's go out and hammer something
Hmm.
or saw something. Get
Right.
see if that helps.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, um, I was the kid. So me and my brother, I was the kid who went out and did all the woodworking and the working on the car and doing all that stuff with my dad. My brother never did any of that. He was stuck in his room with a nose in his book, with his nose in a book, right? But as a result, he didn't really have any kind of activity that allowed him to get anxiety out. And so he just let stuff bottle up. And so he's just one of those people. Things bottle up, and then when it gets too full, right, then he has to act out to fix it. But in this case, because he's such a kind of reserved person, the act out ends up him hurting himself because he punched a wall, or you know what I mean? Because he's not a violent person, so he doesn't want to like hit someone. So he goes for the pillow or the wall or the brick or the whatever and ends up hurting himself. Because he never had the opportunity to learn strategies. I mean, he doesn't do it now; he's 50. But when in the teenage years, he didn't already have those strategies built up from when he was younger, so it had nowhere to go.
Yeah, no, I've and that's a great thing for us to sort of talk about and consider as well. I've part of my goal. I've gotten to the point where I'm enjoying it, doing it with them. Honestly, I think the best thing we've built is the dice tower that we put together. It's really nice. Like, it came together really well. There's a few things I would do differently, but for the most part, it worked out really well, and it looks nice. The tray especially. The tray is fantastic, but yeah, no, I mean, part of my goal, besides I've come to just sort of enjoy it, is it gives me an opportunity to do things with him. And I think oftentimes he feels less connected. He's the youngest, so, we don't have the same conversations with him that we have with his brother. And, and now, he also has picked up like, miniature painting with me, so we'll do that sometimes, and that's another hobby I never did before the pandemic. That was early on. We started doing that. The oldest was the first one to start painting, but then he dropped off it real quick and never really had an interest in going back to it. So I don't know. He's a crafty kid, and he likes to do a lot of things. He started. My wife and he just last week started learning how to knit. Neither one of them has ever knitted before, but they're doing that together, and so and he likes all that kind of stuff, right? So, or at least he does sometimes, and then sometimes he doesn't, and he doesn't do it for a long time. But that's the nature of being a human being, kid, right? I mean, and human,
right.
I mean, I haven't picked up the paints in probably 2 months, so. Yeah.
Nice.
And the other reason I brought up the woodworking is that it is physical activity as you're doing it.
Especially because we don't have power tools.
Right, exactly. Because I saw the picture with the chisel, and I was like, oh, they're gonna feel that.
And those boards those are for the cubbies. And those boards don't fit together nearly as nicely as the things I see on YouTube or that I watch to learn how to do it. but they're using routers or table saws with dado blades, to do that, or they're using hand tools, but they've been like this. That was the 150th time they've done it. So, I'm going to be pretty happy with it, and it's going to be functional. We're done with the construction now. Now we're painting. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think those were there last time we did a fit. Sorry for the people who are going to listen to this on audio. I have wall shelves that I put up. I stained them and stuff like that too. So that's the other reason I was like kind of interested in how the wood stuff was doing.
Yeah, no, I have
cool.
my game shelf area. I have 2 bookshelves over there, and it's a mess and it's a disaster, and they're just sort of a mishmash of stuff, and I've considered like building something there, but I don't think we're good enough that I would be happy with anything we would build. But then I think it was those that you have up in the upper left of your head there, Tracy. I saw those that you have that are just sort of the built-ins, and I'm like, why am I talking about building a fancy bookshelf? Like, we could do that. We could just hang sort of the mounted into the wall shelves. Now I just got to convince my wife to let me do it. So.
And what's nice about these brackets is that they act as natural bookends too for the books, so they're not going to all fall over if I take a bunch of books down.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that is partially what I've been doing. I am basically just on pause for anything that might be considered traditional fitness. So the thing that happened in September is my mom developed sepsis. I don't know if we've talked about it on here. I know I've talked about it a few other places, but she had sepsis. She developed these abscesses that became wounds that required wound care. And so basically, ever since I think near the beginning of October, I've had to go over to my mom's house every day and help pack the wounds, uh, which is better now than it was. It's not always a pleasant thing to do. So that's been a heavy burden and just makes it hard to do everything else because I'm still working full time. We still have Freddie. He's sometimes at home because we have a pandemic going on. That means that sometimes it's not safe to send him to school, or if he has any sort of sniffles or anything like that, we obviously have to keep him back just in case. We've gone through a few different COVID tests with people in here. They've all come back negative. But it's a lot. It's all the typical pandemic stuff, plus worrying not only about getting sick about like my own health, but I'm the only person in my family that can help my mom. But it also means we can't isolate from each other. So we kind of have to be one big household, even though technically we live in two houses, sort of thing. So that's a lot to go on. And the pandemic is not easy on people. I'm more introverted, but not everyone in my family is. And it's really hard on people who really miss that human people connection. And particularly when you have to count, like, I am at increased risk. Like, I have a bunch of the comorbidities. So does my parents and my brother. So it's a lot.
I have discussed and found and heard that it's also difficult the other way around. That like, my wife and I love each other very much, but we're not used to being around each other this much, and that can be hard too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of lucky too because I'm an introvert and my wife's an introvert, and so we both have that. We're not. It's not. As Fred said in the chat, it's crushing if you're an extrovert. Like it's crushing to be separate. It's very mentally taxing to be separated. I don't have that particular. But the other day, I basically was like. I had a game. I ran a game last night, and I had missed my Sunday game because I was sick on Sunday. I just had a headache and stuff, and so I hadn't gamed in like 3 weeks or something because of various series of events kept me from gaming. And I've gotten used to gaming about 2-3 times a month, and it's what keeps me busy, right? And I sort of stopped and thought about it, and I thought, wow, I kind of miss people. And I thought to myself, holy crap, that's possibly the first time in my adult life when I've actually said I kind of miss people because I don't like people. I like people just fine. I don't want to be around them all the time. Like I'm just an introvert. I'm fine like seeing people online, seeing my coworkers, occasionally. And, of course I'm home all day with my wife. And so like, but I'm just not a crowd person. So I'm fine being around just a few people. But even to get to the point where I'm saying, ooh, I miss people. I miss some people like being around. That is a pretty, I mean, it's, my wife and I have not been to a restaurant in 9.5 months. We haven't been to any store other than a grocery store in 9.5 months. I haven't been to the building where I work in 4 months now. I worked over the summer.
Right.
So I had time where I didn't have to go to work in March. I didn't go to the building, but then in the summer I worked twice a week. So like, but even then I only saw like 2 people. So it's been a really long time. It's been long enough for me to appreciate the person at the grocery store that we sort of all, we're all there masked up and, bundled up, and we're kind of nodding as thank you for being a human alive in my space. Don't get too close.
As much as it was a risk, my institution went face to face mostly, and all my classes were face to face. They were all on the same day, and so I just pop in on those days and stay away from people and wear my mask and whatever. But it was a game changer in terms of mental health. my wife and I got our separate time again. And I got to see people other than the other members of my family. If only just for a little bit each of those days, but. That was huge, and our students actually were really good. So the safety thing actually went really well. We started to have a particularly troublesome spike right at the tail end, and then I think we just sort of hung on to get through finals and then go home. But it was a risk.
Yeah, but anyway, Tracy, we kind of took over.
Oh no! So there's all of that stuff going on. We haven't quite done the same level that you have, Sam, but we try to do things that were more outside because you got to balance everything. And then the thing that kills me right now, or I know I'm saying that, is it's Christmas. It's holiday season. I want to buy gifts. I don't necessarily want to go to the stores to buy gifts, but everything is so much slower with deliveries at a time when I have less time to actually think ahead and get things. So that's fun and interesting that I'll have to figure out. But yeah, and then now, as you guys are talking about, spikes are happening. They've been happening in the county that I'm in, and so with my mom's thing in particular, there suddenly became this pressure, one, that I don't get sick, so I can't help her. And then the other one is her doctor's office going to close again? Because it could happen. And while having the wound care doctor look at her is an important and necessary thing, if it's too risky, then they'll just say, keep doing everything at home and we'll do a virtual visit, which doesn't help if so it's just, it's and then one of her doctors, her endocrinologist, actually got COVID. We found out today that the doctor that had been coming, because my dad's been home ridden, he can't go out anywhere. That doctor, the reason he had kept canceling, he also had gotten COVID. So it's just so that's why I'm just on pause. I will find creative and useful ways to deal with stress, like painting, and then we'll go back to it when I can, and I'll just try to start making better decisions and not do as much comfort food.
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, I don't know that I would be able to survive it right now if I had a little toddler running around my house. I really don't, because the awesome thing about my wife and I, because we are both introverts, and she works from home anyway, normally, even before the pandemic. So she already had a routine, right? So at first, when I was working from home, I was kind of almost impinging on her routine, because all of a sudden she felt like, oh, I need to check on Sam and see if he needs lunch. And we had to get into a rhythm where it was like, okay, either I'm going to tell you, don't worry about me, just work your normal day like you would, or you're going to come every day and we're going to have lunch together, and we need to make that we had a little negotiation we kind of had to do and figure out what was best for both of us, so we could both stay productive and, whatever. But if we had a toddler thrown into the mix, or an elderly parent or something, I mean, I'm there have been times these past 9 months when both of us kind of look at each other and we're like, we're barely holding on. Are you okay? Can we just hold on for one night and then tomorrow we'll talk again? Just to understand, hey, this is shit, right? This is just not okay, but we need to live till tomorrow. So let's just live till tomorrow, and kind of take it literally almost hour by hour, because the mental health strain is so rough sometimes. And it's just, I don't even many respects for you that have kids, because I don't and I talk to Brandis a lot, Brandis, and he has a couple little kids around, and it's, he's giving similar stories to what everybody that I know who has a little kid at home. It's And I'm a college professor, so I deal with young people,
Not
but not
kids, yeah.
kids. And I'm like, some of them are, I mean, like, so I teach anatomy and physiology, so I'm teaching people that want to go into the health professions. And the fact of the matter is, most of them already work in the health professions, but at a lower level than a nurse. So they're in and out of the hospital for their jobs all the time and putting themselves in danger
Mm-hmm.
every day. And I'm supposed to be over here, some authority teaching them the knowledge they need to go be a nurse. And I'm like, you know,
Right.
it's so lopsided and backwards and broken right now that it's just really hard to deal with. And I don't think I'd be able to do it if I had a toddler hanging around. It wouldn't turn out well for one of us.
Yeah, and there definitely have been days where it's so we're trying to get routines, and the other thing I'm trying to do is get more of his toys settled so that it's self he can do it all on his own. Because the big pain point currently sometimes is just the constant need for help, and it's not his fault; it's our fault for not setting him up for success in a lot of ways. And the routines really help because then he knows when to expect certain things.
Mhm.
And that's been like the hardest part is just between, having to keep him home from school because like he had a fever for a little while, or right after Thanksgiving, we didn't trust that people weren't going to go visit their families, so we just said, well, we'll keep him home. And then add on top of it the constantly changing landscape with my mom because it was like I talked about the wound care part, but she was in the hospital for a good week before that, and that meant I had to go every day and visit her. And I don't mean to say it like I had to, like as in
Right.
it was a huge
No, no,
obligation that
yeah,
I didn't want to do. But the reality is
And
I
it
had
takes
to
time,
see
yeah.
her every day.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so it's just like not being able to set that routine is really super, super hard, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I like so my brother has two toddlers, and he lives in Sweden. So talking about the gift thing, my wife and I are early shoppers. So we would normally shop between February and July for Christmas stuff, right? Well, guess what? Between February and July this year, nothing, right? But we can order things online, and kind of our families kind of basically we got together and we all just kind of said we don't have any really young kids in the family except for my brother's two toddlers, so let's just not buy gifts right now. Like this year is just going to be a card exchange and just well wishes. It's the thought that counts. We don't want to have to worry about whether somebody's home to get a package they have to sign for or any of that stuff. And so and that's kind of it. And my brother lives in Sweden, so it's not like we were going to send him anything anyway. I mean, we send stuff, but it usually that takes forever because he's in Sweden. And so and it's a different kind of deal because there's value added tax and different tariffs and all that kind of stuff. So normally we get we do gifting differently with that with him and his family. And but for us, we just kind of said, okay, well, we're not going to get gifts. Like we're just and all the adults in my family kind of have what they need anyway. There's not like something where, somebody needs something, so we should all band together and get this really awesome gift that would be helpful to. We would do that if we could, but it's just not a necessary thing. So, but it's still been stressful because, like I said, like we're usually by November 1st packing up everything and sending it out and wrapping gifts, and
Right.
nothing this year. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
just so oppressive. And I got to be honest, with all the spikes going around, we went to the grocery store on Monday, and or was it when anyway, earlier this week we went to the grocery store, and leaving my house that morning I was kind of like I'm kind of scared to go to the grocery store right now because it's spiking right now all around us. And I had read the night before in the newspaper that basically the hospital that we would go to has
Right.
no beds. They're treating
Yeah.
people in the hallways, you know. Um uh, God, okay. I
Yep.
mean, I'm scared. I don't want to get sick and have to go to the hospital. And, I just it's just oppressive that sort of hanging over all of us, right? Is just so mentally jarring.
Right. And of course you get it. Like if you go out, there's a good odds are you won't get it. If you do get it, there's a good chance it won't be serious enough to go to the hospital. But if if it is serious and you do have to go to the hospital and there's no room for you, what happens?
Right.
Yeah. And one of the things for me is that I have a very good friend from college, was maid of honor at my wedding, works in nursing homes. So they've lost 100 people. And so it's just like, wow, okay. And they ended up recently also getting it. So it's very it's very omnipresent in my life right now. As it is for many people. But yeah, and so going to the gift thing, I sent this really awkward text to my sister-in-law who married Fred's brother, because I was like, okay, so normally this time of year everyone wants the list for me. I don't even know if I should make a list. Do you want a list? Like, are we even doing this? Because I know we can't go to Massachusetts. Like, what do you? But at the same time, like, because there's Freddie, like, do you want Freddie's list? Like, at least do that part. She's like, well, yeah, I'll take a list, particularly Freddie's, and I'll talk to the other family to see what we're gonna do, because it's like I felt weird even writing it down. It's like we have pretty much everything we really need, and I know for like at least some of that part of the family, the thing is going out and getting things, so I definitely don't want to make them feel like they have to go.
Yeah, I think everybody in our family is everybody's shopping online and shipping it direct to the other people. Like, we're still doing all the normal gift exchange stuff, but it's going to be weird. And in fact, if I was a little distracted earlier while Sam was talking about stuff, it's because my wife is upstairs shopping right now and needed my opinion about something.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, but we in the culture that I grew up in, at least I'm going to say my family culture, because I know that there's a lot of people that don't do it this way, but we the holidays, and I talked about this a little bit when we had James on last time, but there's a big food culture around the holidays, and there's a big gift giving culture around the holidays, and even though the thing that makes it so special actually is that we were not well off when I was little. Like, we didn't, we just weren't well off. And so when you would get a gift, it would be something special, right? Because it was special to get a gift when you knew that people basically couldn't afford things, and so that it forms a camaraderie within and among the family members, because we're not well off. So it's really, it's really important for us to show things around that holiday with gifts, right? And there's the whole milieu with Santa, and the kids get gifts from Santa and from the adults. And, it's a lot of family time and a lot of gift giving and a lot of food. And none of that is present this year, right? Carol and I chose not to travel for Thanksgiving, and we chose not to travel for Christmas. We thought we might travel for Christmas, and then it started spiking. So we said, all right, well, that's done. And, that's really just to keep my in-laws safe and to keep us safe, because, I mean, I would hate for us to travel to see my in-laws, and my mom is a plane ride away, and we're not thinking about getting on a plane, but my in-laws are in the same state, but they're 4 hours away. And so to travel 4 hours, and if something were to happen to one of them and one of them were to get sick because we carried something unknowingly, or we, you know what I mean? Like, I can't even like say how that would make me feel. Like, I would be so devastated, right? Because we got selfish and we decided we wanted to have Christmas, it's just not, we're not really doing a Christmas. I mean, we're doing it with each other. We put lights on a tree out front, and, we'll exchange little gifts with each other, but we're not really, we'll call and text our family members, and we'll video chat, and that's kind of, it's certainly going to go down as, the COVID years, and I use that plurally on purpose because I think next year is probably not going to be as good as people think it is going to be. But the holidays during the COVID years are going to transform into something that I don't think any of us expected or are happy about.
Yeah. All of that.
So, I mean, I didn't mean to turn this into a depression fest, but the reality of it is that all of that sort of, and I'm a thinker, and I say that, and it sounds weird. I'm not saying that other people don't think, but I'm one of those people who, if I lay down at night and I'm not tired enough to actually just go to sleep within 5 or 10 minutes, I will literally lay there for an hour and just think. And I don't want to get up because I don't want to, then that'll just start the next 4 hours. I'll be totally awake and I won't be able to sleep at all. And just maybe if I just lay here and I try to relax, then I'll
because I'm similar in terms of how I go to sleep. And my solution for the last, it's been many years now, since I started reading my comics on the iPad, my solution is I read comics before bed. That's pretty much the only time I read comics is right before bed. And I read comics before bed, and I just sort of, as soon as Megan goes to sleep, I start reading because it's on its own screen. It's not keeping her up. I don't have the lights on or whatever. As much as they tell you not to be staring at your devices right before bed, but it works for me, right? And so I read comics before bed, before I go to sleep, and I just sort of keep reading until I start nodding off. Like as soon as I kind of close my eyes and then realize, oh, my eyes have been closed a really long time. Where was I? Then I'm like, okay, that's my cue. Plug it in, turn it off, go to sleep. And it usually works pretty well for me in terms of getting to sleep. Now, sometimes it means, I'm going to sleep and falling asleep at 10:30, and sometimes it means I'm falling asleep at 11:15. But at least when I'm going to sleep, I fall asleep pretty quickly. So.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good advice at all, but it works for me. So.
Yeah. My strategy is stay up until I'm so tired I know that when I lay down I'll be asleep within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes that means I'm up until 3 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes at 1 o'clock I'm tired. So, pre-pandemic, I would still stay up till midnight or sometimes 1 o'clock. But when I went to bed, it was like, okay, I'm really tired and I got to get up early because I've got so much to do. And now it's like, okay, I'm staying up even though I'm not necessarily being productive because I know if I go lay down, I'm just not going to go to sleep. Right. So it's just a different.
So you might as well stay up and edit podcasts.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing is I can't. So it's funny you say that about comic books because the thing is I tried doing things like that, like reading before bed or something. But if I read to try to lull myself into a comfortableness so that I fall asleep, then I train myself to get tired when I'm reading, and I can't do that because I read a lot for work. And so I know comic books are a little bit different, right? Like, 'cause there's a lot of visual imagery, and so you're looking at more than just words. But like for me, I can't do any kind of reading to go to sleep because then I've done it before and I've had to break myself. Oh man, I can't read before.
No, I get that.
I'm trying to sleep.
I remember when I think it was when Emrys was a baby, my youngest. I wanted to have something, those nights when you're up with him in the middle of the night and you're just trying to comfort him and get him back to sleep and whatever. I needed something to listen to that would engage me just enough to not fall asleep in the nursery, but and keep me somewhat engaged or entertained or whatever, but not so engaged that I wouldn't be able to instantly fall back asleep, right? And so I started listening to the it's from the How Stuff Works group of podcasts, but I think it was like the stuff you didn't learn in history class, right? Because I'm a history guy,
Oh,
right?
right.
And then after he got to a point where he was sleeping normally, and I didn't need that anymore, I'm like, all right, great. Well, these are nice little short history podcasts. They're kind of interesting. I can get back into those for fun now, not just in the middle of the night. And every time I turned it on, it'd be like, oh, just the theme song hits me. It's like Pavlov's bell, you know. as soon as I hear it, it's like, oh, bedtime. So maybe I should start listening to that before bed.
Yeah. So as a result, I'm kind of like Tracy. I've kind of almost put fitness on the back burner. It's not that I don't think about it. It's that I think about it, and then I end up getting like, I'm like a squirrel. Oh, I got to go do that. Oh, I got to go do that. Oh, I got to go do that. And then all of a sudden there's no time, or it gets dark earlier now, so I don't want to go outside in the dark and try to walk around because I don't want to be unsafe. And it's just, there's always an excuse, right? So
you had
the
bikes
thing is,
at one point too, didn't you?
There's also this.
Did you do the bikes?
Say that again.
Were you doing the bikes at one point?
We still have them. It's just, like I said, there's an excuse element to it too, right? Like there's almost this sort of there's this certain ignition energy I need to hit to be able to go get on that bike and do the daily exercise. And I haven't been able to hit it lately because I'm so worn out and so overstressed and so tired all the time and so busy. I'm hoping that now that this is the last week of school for me, so it's finals and put grades in and deal with all that stuff, I'm hoping that I can get back to a more kind of regular schedule, that I could meet the requirements that I set for myself and actually do some sort of exercise every day in a traditional exercise sense, right? But I don't know. Some of that is just the intention that like the first, still, because I am not, it's not ingrained in me yet. When I get too busy, the first thing that goes is that time I was going to exercise.
And it's so hard because like you get into this mindset to do it and you force it to be part of your routine, but as soon as you give yourself permission or something comes up to take a day off or whatever, it becomes so hard, or I guess it becomes really easy to sort of just fall into the momentum of not doing it again. It's so hard to sort of keep that up. I tell you, I forgot to mention this during my my opening, but last time we recorded, I guess it was September, we stumbled on a strategy that I've been using to get me motivated, and it's been working really well. And that's that I really enjoy the Dresden Files books, and I had 3 of them that I hadn't listened to yet. And so last September when we met, somebody came up with the idea that like I just shouldn't listen to them unless I'm exercising. And it's worked because like now it's like I only get to listen to these books I really like 3 times a week, but I better at least listen to them those 3 times. Like I better get out there and get walking because I got to find out what the heck's going to happen. And different people are like they're even like, I don't know, have either of you read the Dresden Files books?
I've read the first 3 about, I don't know.
Yeah, and
like that.
Tracy, have you?
I think like 1 or 2.
So here's my take. Like everybody, or a lot of people were talking about how great the Dresden Files books were, all over the social media and whatever. So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll check it out. And I listened to the first one. I'm like, all right, I get it. That was kind of all right. Whatever, no big deal. But people really like it. I'll keep, it was fine, and I'm getting them for free through the library. I'll just sort of keep going through. And the first 3 were just kind of okay. And then at around book 4 or 5, it's like, oh, these are pretty good. And then you get to like book 8, and it's like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever, and I can't stop listening, right? So...
Well, so is that, so I considered the first 3 like a good beach reading, right? Like they're so like airy and easy to read. You could sit on a beach and read it, and it's just very relaxing, and that's good. That's
absolutely.
That's what I need to.
It's what I call popcorn reading.
But
It's light and easy.
Yeah. So do they get better because the writing gets better, or because the story is so good now it's dragging you
So
into the
the
entire
writing
world?
it's still light. It's still really easy to read. Like one of my favorite scenes I'm in the most recent book now, and they're the city of Chicago is gearing up for war, and one of my favorite scenes was when Harry, the main character, calls on his allies and sends out Major General Toot Toot of the fairies and his hundreds of thousands of fairy legions in armor to go out into the city to fight and stop the apocalypse because they have to save the pizza shops because the fairies really like pizza, right? They call Harry the Za Lord because he always used pizza to lure them in, to summon them, and whatever.
Yeah.
It's fun situations like that, but it's light,
Yeah.
it's airy, it's easy to read, but like it's gotten serious, like, and there's some big deal, like he has gotten himself mixed up in really big things, and it's complex and it all weaves together, and yet at the same time, like I don't feel like some of our book club books, I don't feel like I have to listen and re-listen and make sure I caught every little nuance of whatever was going on to follow along and know what's going on. It's still sort of it's kind of turned into popcorn reading, but with like some heft. It's got something going on to really sink your teeth into. So, but it really that's what motivates me, is that I'm down to the last book now, but like big stuff is going on, like. Somebody just showed up and kicked Queen Mab of the Queen of Air and Darkness through a building. Like, who the heck is that? And what are we gonna like? That's what's gonna happen, right? I gotta find out. Right. So I force myself to go out and walk at least 3 times a week, most weeks. So I can figure out what the heck is gonna happen in these stories. But that's been huge for me. That strategy that we stumbled upon last time we chatted has been great for my motivation, because like. There are days, like I said, I think I have this incisional hernia thing going on or whatever. Like, there are days it's kind of sore, and I just don't want to I don't want to go out and do something, right? But then I'm like, but I got to get to the next couple chapters and figure out what's going on. And I grab the dog and we go for a 3-mile walk,
Yeah. It reminds me of Ready Player One. Did you read Ready Player One? So in Ready Player One, there's that one part where he gets the cool new rig, but he realizes he's like can barely fit into the suit, and so he sets up his login so that it forces him to do 30 minutes of exercise before it lets him log into the Oasis. And at first he just bitches about it incessantly, like it's horrible the first 2 or 3 weeks or something, but then his body kind of gets used to it, and he starts he does even more rigorous workout, and so then he sort of gets more into shape. And it was because he could not log in if he didn't do the exercise first, and it tracked how much exercise he was doing and how much he was eating and all that kind of stuff, and it set parameters for him so that he couldn't access his most beloved thing in the world that he needed to experience until he did that. So that's kind of what it reminds me of. Absolutely. What you're talking about. But yeah, so that's a good idea. I should probably, for me, I'm a schedule person. So really what I need to do is I need to set up for myself a schedule that isn't too rigid, but that puts that exercise time in my schedule in a spot that I am the least likely to deprioritize.
Yeah, that's going to be tricky for me next semester, because I'm picking up a coworker's class. She's going on sabbatical, and as a result, I'm teaching 4 days a week instead of the 2 days a week that I was doing this last semester. So you're teaching 2 days a week. I've got 3 days a week. I can go out on walks in the morning, or run in the morning, or whatever. Yeah.
I teach 5 days a week, Jeff. No, I'm just saying, you bastard. You
but it's because I do all my classes on one day. So.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
I'm just making fun of you.
Yep. So so we'll see how it goes. We are a good.
Yeah. No, it's hard. It's hard because you always have something, right? You always have something that has to get done.
Yep. And
so anyway. When you're unpacking, you can both have something that has to get done, and it will be some amount of exercise. So you just have to move.
Okay, where am I going to move to? That's the big question right there.
Closer,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
closer.
right.
I just
Maybe.
moved
Kind of
here
depends.
like a year and a half ago.
Yep. Well, you know what you have to do, Jeff.
Yeah, be happy with where I'm at and figure it out without moving.
Yeah.
Okay, we've chatted. Surprisingly, we have managed to talk for almost an hour. That is shocking. But what I don't think what any of us did was talk about sort of our goals for the next month. The hope is that we get together again in what do we normally do early in the month? So early.
I was either late or early, right? Either late in the month and then we talk about that
Yeah.
month that we're still in, or early the following month and then we talk about the previous month. That's what I have in my head. So that may not actually be what we
I
had
think
set
we've
out
been
to
doing.
do, but that's what
I don't know. I think we started with one and then it switched to the other one and then I don't know. So wherever we're at, and some of it might come down to if we want to get a guest on or figure out a book to read or whatever. It might come down to when they can schedule things too. In any case, we'll be talking in January, and that'll be a good sort of opportunity for me to check in before my semester starts, because my semester starts at the beginning of February. Although I have to do some stuff because student teachers are starting earlier. But yeah, so I think we need to set our goals. Who wants to tell us what their goal is going forward into January? It sounds like Sam's ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, my goal has not changed because I did not meet my goal. And I didn't meet it for reasons unrelated to how difficult it is to meet. I just didn't meet my goal. It should be an achievable goal, and I did not achieve it, so I'm going to keep it. And that goal is, I want to do Tai Chi at least 3 times a week, and I want to ride my bike at least 3 times a week. So I want to do some form of exercise 6 days of a week, even if it's a half hour is the time I'm shooting for. If I end up doing 45 minutes or an hour, that's great, but that's not what's, I'm doing half hour. So we'll see how that works.
Half hour would actually be fantastic. I find that right now I'm getting in my walks easy enough, but like on the days when I'm walking, like today, I get ready in the morning. I eat my breakfast. I get my youngest ready. I get him to school. By the time I come back, I get my shoes on and whatever, and I get out walking. Get the dog ready. Put his little sweater on. It's super cute. And then we walk 3 miles, and it takes an hour or so. By the time I get back, get showered, and get ready for the day, it's already like almost 10 o'clock almost every time I do it. and now I feel like I've killed the entire morning. So it's half an hour would I fit in probably a lot easier. 9:30 is such a different time than 10. Like seriously.
Well, you say that like you're being
no, I'm
really
not. No, absolutely. 9:30 is a completely different time than 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Tracy, what are your goals?
Yeah.
So I think my goal is to focus on reducing stress and self-care until my mom's better, because that time will then become something I can use to meet other goals. It's just very difficult right now to find the time to do too much else, and then to keep on packing.
See, this is where you really need older kids. Every time we had a break, I gave my kids chores, and one of their chores was you have to unpack a box every day. And this last summer, they finally unpacked all the boxes, and it's the first time we've had all of our boxes unpacked since we've been married. It's weird.
That is one of the many reasons my child.
Yes, you're perfect. Do you have specific strategies you're using to sort of maintain your de-stressing and your mental health?
So a lot of it is watching YouTube videos where people are doing things like making furniture and stuff like that. That's just, it's relaxing to watch. And maybe someday in the future, when I have more time, I can actually practice it for real. And that would also itself be stress relieving. Sorry for the noise. I'm painting things. So this is just a Crayola tin. I painted it with a bunch of paint while we were recording, and just stuff like that. And then hopefully, I'm really looking forward to the spring. So I need some time. I'm also taking a week off between Christmas and New Year's, so I'll actually have a little breathing time then. Because right now I feel like I'm just like in a marathon that's a sprint, like a marathon length sprint. So hopefully I'll have some time to breathe during that week. And then in the spring we can do gardening and stuff.
Yeah.
So just looking forward to that and be outside, and hopefully numbers will go back down.
Yeah.
Cross our fingers.
Awesome.
So for myself, I want to maintain my 3 times a week walk, run. If I'm able to start doing that again, who knows? I don't know. As I understand it, I've never had a hernia before, but if that's in fact what I have, my understanding is that the only way to fix it is surgery, and I don't know if that's an option right now. Because, our governor just announced nothing but emergency procedures in hospitals at the moment because of our COVID numbers. So that may not. I might just have to live with this thing for a few months and see what happens. So there's that. So I might just be walking, but I'm trying to be physically active at least 3 times a week. Towards my mental health, my goal, and at least for the next month, and I'm doing this because I've got this long, almost summer break in the middle of the winter, is I've tried to set up my days in such a way that every day I'm doing I'm setting aside time for cleaning, I'm setting aside some time for work, and I'm setting aside some time for play. So every day I'm doing a little bit of those 3 things. I've been using, somebody on Twitter had mentioned this app called Sweepy, and I've been using that to help me with the cleaning, which has actually been really nice. You set specific cleaning tasks per room, and mention and schedule like how often it needs to be done. And so then I can just sort of pop in and say, okay, sort it and prioritize for me. What needs to be done today? What's falling behind? And then some of it's little things like, go clean the TV in the living room. I haven't done that in 3 years. So you go do that, right? And it takes 5 minutes, but at least I'm doing something, right? I'm making progress on all of those things every day. And so I think that's been good for my mental health. It adds a little bit of routine as well during this time when I'm at home and I'm not teaching at the moment. So, and the other thing I'm working on, I didn't mention this before, and I thought of it earlier, that my youngest is we talk a lot about him around here. My youngest has been a nail biter since he was like 6. It started off with just fingers in his mouth all the time, and then it's turned into, in the last year or so, biting his nails a lot, and I know the habit well because I've been a nail biter since I was about 6, and it's been particularly bad. And so he and I have been working on not doing that and breaking that habit. And we've been using that weird tasting clear nail polish stuff with the very clear caveat or understanding with him. Because my parents tried that with me when I was young, and I just sort of got used to it and kept doing what I was doing, right? So we've talked a lot about how the goal is not to have this weird tasting stuff be like, ooh, that's gross, stop putting my fingers in my mouth, but be like, oh, my fingers are in my mouth and I'm acutely aware of it because there's that flavor, right? And then I have to exert my willpower to stop. And I've been really good. Like, my nails are, I don't know if people in the video can see, my nails aren't long and I've trimmed them, but I haven't trimmed my nails. I haven't used nail clippers in, I don't know, 40 years, and I'm 41. So it's been forever, right? So I feel like I've made some progress, and I've made progress like this before. But that's a health issue as well, because if you got your fingers in your mouth all the time, you pick up all kinds of stuff, as I'm sure Sam knows. So that's another thing I'm working on. I'm going to try to get through the next month and not do any nail biting. And I really didn't plan on doing it for myself. It was more of just like, hey, we're going to try this strategy for you. Do you want me to do it with you, sort of in solidarity? And so I've been doing it with him, just in solidarity. And I think I'm doing better than he is. He's doing okay, but he's struggling sometimes. So
yeah. Well, young person's impulse control is a little bit harder for them to wrap their heads around.
Absolutely. So yeah, there we are. In fact, we should have put some more on tonight, but here we are. All right. I think we've all got our goals. We've talked through how we've been doing. And we did it all in just moments. Like, this was a super short episode, right?
Yeah. Super short,
just like I predicted,
Jeff.
I had previously said it could be short because it's just the three of us. We're not setting aside separate time for the topic. We don't, And last time we tried to schedule this, you were both like, well, I can do it, but it's got to be super short. So I figured, well, it's just the three of us. If you want it to be super short, that's up to you, right? Don't talk a lot. But here we are.
Super short.
Perfect.
It's short like March.
Yeah, March.
I thought it was still March.
Exactly.
The longest March
longest
ever.
month.
All right. So I think that's where we're going to call it, and that's sort of where we are for this month. If you have questions for us, you can find the show on Facebook. You can find it on Twitter as @TheTomeShow. You can email thetomeshow@gmail.com. You can ask us on any of those places for our Discord link, and we can send that to you, where we even have our own D&D fitness channel. And you can...
And if you have a suggestion for a fitness-related or geeky fitness-related book of some sort for us to review in the next year, early in the next year,
somebody in the David in the D&D fitness channel on Discord, it was suggesting that it helps him if he's reading a fitness-related book to keep that in his mind, so we thought it's been almost a year since we read the Obesity Code. Maybe it's time to get into another book. So if you want to reach out to us individually on Twitter, I am at Squatch, SQUACH. Tracy?
At Sarah Dark Magic with an H.
And Sam?
At DM Samuel, not with an H.
How would you spell Samuel? DM Samuel with an H. I'm sure there is. I don't know why, but I don't know why, but every time I type in on the Tome Show's Twitter account, every time I type in @DMS, it always either gives me you or Celeste Conowitch, and I don't know why it would give me Celeste Conowitch, but it does. So.
Yeah, when you do that on Twitter, the search algorithm brings up whatever they put in their first line of their bio thing too sometimes. So if she wrote DM something, then,
all right. So that is where we are on our fitness quest today. Please come along and join us as we continue to build up our geekiness and our health. The end. The stream is still on, though, so if you want to say goodbye to folks on the stream. You painted blue!
Yeah,
cool. Blue. I already showed this, but...
And that's it.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Is it going to be solid blue? Are you going to add something to it, or... Is the blue like the base for other things?
I haven't figured it out yet, because I kind of like it just as it is. It reminds me of the sea.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks almost like the ocean right off the beach.
I've also been tempted to put a stencil on top, so we'll find out.
Yeah, although along the bottom edge, you could put the sand. So you have a little beach along the bottom edge.
So. Yeah.
So Dar Jr. says off-topic Disney. I don't know. Are we supposed to talk about Disney? What is he asking? I don't know either. He just said off-topic Disney. I don't know what that means.
Disney's going to buy what? What?
Oh, they announced a bunch of new stuff. Yeah, I've been watching Star Wars news coming out like crazy today. I didn't catch all the other stuff that they've announced. Did they announce new Marvel stuff? Probably.
It's really hard to be a geek who doesn't watch The Mandalorian or enjoy Marvel. So, like, I'm just not. I'm completely nonplussed by all of these announcements and all of the spoilers versus no spoilers. I'm just like, whatever. I don't.
Oh, I tell
know
you,
anything about what you're talking
Mandalorian
about,
spoilers are. It's a thing. Like, because I watch it. That's the one show that my family all watches together. It's the only show that we all watch together.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't go on social media if I don't want to be spoiled because it's not even just the messages. I don't read the messages. It's like the headlines or the images, the pictures, even the promo images that Disney's using or whatever are spoilery. And it's not, it's not spoilery to the point that it's going to ruin my experience with it. And so, fine, whatever. But it is a little bit like cringy. Like, what the heck? Like, we used to be careful about this, but for some reason, this show gets a pass of not being careful. So, yeah. What about the Willow TV series? You going to watch that?
Probably not. The thing is, like, I don't watch that much TV, and I only watch TV when I'm watching with my wife, and she doesn't really enjoy fantasy that much or Star Wars all that much. So she'll go to the Star Wars movies with me or go to a fantasy movie with me because it's an event to watch a movie, but she's not interested in watching because normally when we sit down and watch a show, we watch like the whole series, right? So, and I don't take time other than that time to watch any kind of television type media. So I've never seen, for example, Game of Thrones. Just never seen.
I watched
never
a couple
single
seasons,
episode.
one or two. I don't know. That was back when I was getting the Game of Thrones because I didn't have HBO. I was watching Game of Thrones through Netflix discs because we were still getting those up until honestly a few months ago. We were still getting them.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's.
But it got to a point. I mean, even a few months ago, we realized we're still paying monthly for these Netflix discs, but we only watch them like every 3 months. Like, I think we could just get rid of it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
So there's our off-topic Disney conversation.
Yep. All right.
I'm gonna wrap up the stream.
Everyone.
So say goodbye. Bye, stream.
Bye, stream.
I can't transition. There we go.